Reminds me of this one time when I was living on the homestead as a child, being raised without running water, and my
I've always thought of myself as a gutsy kind of guy, the sort who doesn't spook easily. But every time I sit down to revisit the Kilcher family's story, there's a flutter in my chest. Maybe it's because their lives have always carried a certain gravity, equal parts adventure and introspection, that makes my own seem tame by comparison. It's a tale built on grit, music, survival, and the wild romance of Alaska itself. From the moment I first heard their voices singing over a crackling campfire to the images of snow-draped cabins glowing under an endless night sky, something about their world tugged at me. Today, with their show long off the air, I find myself wondering not just what they're doing, but how that extraordinary frontier spirit endures. Let's step back into their universe and find out. For 11 captivating seasons, from its debut in 2011 to its pause in 2022, Alaska, The Last Frontier invited millions of viewers into the Kilcher's rugged world. The series, broadcast by Discovery, wasn't just another reality show. It was a living testament to self-reliance and family bonds. Each episode unfolded like a modern pioneer diary. Hunting moose, repairing cabins battered by fierce winds, coaxing vegetables from permafrost-kissed soil. Unlike contrived survival programs, this wasn't about dropping people into the wild with a camera crew for a ratings stunt. The Kilchers were already living this life, long before television found them. Viewers came to know them as real people who woke before dawn to milk goats, stock firewood, and prepare for brutal winters that could last 7 months. Children learned to read the snow, adults wrestled with machinery failures and sudden storms, and every family decision carried the weight of genuine consequence. By the time the show reached its 11th season, it had become more than entertainment. It was comfort for urban dwellers yearning for authenticity and a reminder of the resilience that built Alaska itself. When the hiatus arrived, fans felt the absence sharply. Social media filled with questions. How are the Kilchers faring? Have they kept to their homesteading ways? The curiosity endures because Alaska, the last frontier, wasn't merely about scenery or spectacle. It was about people who chose a life most of us only daydream about. Long before cameras arrived, the Kilcher saga began with an escape across an ocean. In the late 1930s, Europe trembled under the shadow of war. Switzerland, though neutral, offered little solace for dreamers who sought a purer freedom. Yule Kilcher, pronounced Yuli, was a multilingual scholar who could hold a conversation in a dozen tongues. Ruth Weber, a young opera aspirant and poet, shared his yearning for a life unshackled by the rising tide of authoritarianism. Together, they embarked on an audacious journey. Alaska, at that time a distant U.S. territory, promised what Europe could not. Vast land, minimal government interference, and a frontier where determination mattered more than pedigree. By 1940, Yule and Ruth had claimed 160 acres near Kachemak Bay, a sweep of raw wilderness without roads, electricity, or even reliable maps. Their first cabin rose from timber they felled themselves. Winters tested every ounce of resolve. Ruth scrubbed clothes by hand in icy water, sewing garments on a treadle machine. Evenings, kerosene lamps flickered as she read stories aloud to the children. Food came from soil and sea, potatoes, wild greens, salmon hauled from silvery currents. The couple's family eventually grew to 8 children, each raised on lessons of independence and stewardship. The Homestead Act allowed them to expand to over 600 acres, but the land was more than property. It was an education. Every fence post hammered in frozen ground, every moose hunted for winter meat, carried the lesson that comfort is earned. Yule, restless and visionary, believed Alaska deserved statehood. In 1955, he was elected among the 55 delegates who drafted Alaska's constitution, shaping the political foundation of the future state. Ruth's talents flourished, too. She became a respected writer and a columnist for the Anchorage Daily News, her words chronicling the intersection of wilderness and human spirit. What makes their story remarkable isn't just survival, it's foresight. Long before influencer culture existed, Yule and Ruth were media pioneers. They filmed their daily life in a self-made documentary titled A Pioneer Family in Alaska, which they screened across Europe during the 1950s. Audiences marveled at images of children hauling nets through frigid waters and a young family crafting civilization from nothing. In many ways, that early film planted the seed for the later television series. The Kilchers didn't stumble into fame. They cultivated it organically, blending art and endurance. Generations later, those same values echo through their descendants. The Homestead stands as both physical and symbolic proof of a family that refused to let convenience dilute character. Understanding this backdrop is essential. When viewers met the Kilchers on television decades later, they weren't watching newcomers to frontier life. They were witnessing the continuation of a philosophy born in the crucible of war and wilderness. That mid-century documentary tour wasn't merely a novelty. It revealed the Kilchers' intuitive grasp of storytelling. Before Discovery Channel executives even existed, Yule and Ruth were captivating audiences with moving pictures of self-sufficiency and unspoiled landscapes. Their 16mm reels depicted moments that modern viewers would instantly recognize. Snow-laden roofs, children laughing around a wood stove, and the silent beauty of an Alaskan dawn. European theaters filled with spectators who might never see such a frontier firsthand. And the Kilcher name became a quiet legend among those who yearned for something beyond post-war city life. So when Alaska, the last frontier, eventually brought their grandchildren to international television, it felt less like a surprise and more like destiny. The family had been documenting itself for decades. The show's blend of music, humor, and unscripted hardship was simply the next chapter in a tradition of sharing their lives with the world. As the eldest son, Atz carried the role of de facto patriarch on the last frontier. Viewers saw a man equally comfortable with a rifle or a guitar, a protector of family traditions. Summers found him at the head of the bay, tending cattle and prepping supplies for relentless winters. Music was his lifelong heartbeat. Known as a folk singer and cowboy poet, Atz performed ballads that chronicled everything from icy seas to quiet heartaches. He often toured with his daughter, Jewel, long before she became an international star. Their yodeling father-daughter duets in Alaskan bars are the stuff of local legend. But behind the songs lay a complicated personal history. In his 2018 memoir, Atz detailed the turbulence of growing up under Yule's stern and sometimes volatile parenting. Yule was brilliant and passionate, but prone to sudden rages that left emotional scars. Atz later faced his own crucible in the Vietnam War, returning home with the invisible wounds of PTSD. Those experiences fed into cycles of anger and anxiety that he spent decades untangling. His daughter Jewel has spoken about the challenges of that household, recounting her decision to leave home at 15. Yet Atz chose the hard path of introspection. Through therapy, music, and sheer will, he dismantled the shame and pain of his past. On the show, audiences witnessed a wiser Atz, guiding younger Kilchers, demonstrating wilderness skills, and sharing folk wisdom earned through trial. Today, Atz remains on the homestead, living in tune with the land. He continues to write and release music, including the reflective acoustic singles collection in 2020. Perhaps most inspiring is his work with Project Healing Waters, using music and storytelling to help fellow veterans navigate trauma. His journey proves that the toughest frontier lies within, where healing demands as much courage as any Alaskan winter. If Atz was the family's soul, Otto was its engine. The sixth child of Yule and Ruth, Otto displayed mechanical ingenuity from childhood. To him, nothing was junk. Every discarded part held potential. Fans of the show delighted in watching him resurrect rusting machinery, transforming scrap metal into essential tools. His philosophy was simple. Nothing is wasted, and anything can be fixed with enough creativity and grit. That mantra guided not only his repairs, but his outlook on life itself. He approached obstacles as puzzles waiting to be solved. Whether it was keeping livestock safe from predators or coaxing a temperamental generator back to life during a blizzard. Yet in 2022, Otto faced a challenge no wrench could mend. While tending his herd during a violent snowstorm, he was suddenly trampled by a cow, a terrifying incident captured on camera. The injuries were severe: multiple broken ribs, punctured lungs, and a lengthy, painful recovery. Fans held their breath as updates trickled out, worried for the steadfast fixer who seemed indestructible. True to character, Otto approached healing with the same resolve he brought to a stubborn engine. Rehabilitation was grueling, but he methodically regained strength, refusing to surrender his independence. Today, he continues his mechanical wizardry and stewardship of the land, a living testament to resilience and resourcefulness. The Kilcher family's enduring story reminds us that frontiers aren't only geographic. Their cabins, pastures, and fishing boats are symbols, yes, but the deeper journey has always been inward. Otts faced the frontier of emotional healing, turning wartime trauma and a complicated childhood into music and mentorship. Otto confronted the frontier of physical recovery, proving that creativity and grit can mend even a broken body. When fans ask what the Kilchers are doing now, the truest answer is that they are still living their values. They continue to farm, fish, and repair the machines that keep them self-reliant. More importantly, they keep telling stories through songs, memoirs, and quiet daily acts that echo the vision Yule and Ruth carried across the Atlantic nearly a century ago. The Last Frontier isn't just a TV title. It's a state of mind, a reminder that the wildest landscapes often lie within our own hearts. And as long as the Kilchers continue to face those inner and outer wilds with courage, their legacy will never fade. Avon, one of Otto's sons, represents the next wave of Kilcher homesteaders. Where his father's talent lies in fixing anything mechanical, Ivan's gift is innovation. He and his wife, Eve, became fan favorites for the way they blended old-world homesteading skills with a touch of modern creativity. Their log home, which they built largely by hand, is a living workshop where ingenuity meets tradition. Ivan is known for crafting tools and outdoor ovens from scrap iron, while Eve shines in the expansive gardens she cultivates. Viewers loved watching her coax vibrant vegetables from stubborn Alaskan soil, proof that self-sufficiency can also be delicious. Away from the cameras, the couple co-authored Homestead Kitchen, a cookbook that pairs family stories with recipes rooted in the land: moose chili, smoked salmon pâté, and sourdough bread that rises slowly in the long northern nights. Their life today remains close to the soil, proof that the Kilcher ethos easily flows into a new generation. Jane, married to Atts Lee, Atts's son, brought a different spark to the series. A former commercial fisherwoman, Jane knew the ocean as intimately as others know their living rooms. Her expertise in deep-sea fishing added both skill and adventure to the Kilcher narrative. Fans were drawn to Jane's wry humor and fierce independence. Whether braving icy waters to haul in halibut or standing her ground in a family debate, she showed that strength can come wrapped in warmth and wit. After the show paused, Jane focused on music and online storytelling, often sharing acoustic sessions and candid reflections with followers. Her presence reinforces a core Kilcher lesson: individuality and family loyalty can coexist, each strengthening the other. Atts Lee inherited his father's musical streak and a restless spirit. On screen, he often appeared as the daring hunter, trekking into remote areas to secure winter meat or repair distant cabins. But his journey hasn't been without hardship. In 2015, Atts Lee survived a near-fatal fall while hiking, an accident that shattered bones and required extensive surgeries. Recovery was slow and painful, testing not just his body but his determination. Through it all, he leaned on music, family, and the quiet strength of the homestead. Today, he continues to hunt, write songs, and share glimpses of wilderness life with an ever-curious fan base, proving that resilience is woven deep into Kilcher DNA. Perhaps the most widely known Kilcher outside Alaska, Jewel transformed childhood yodeling sessions with her father into an international music career. Her breakout 1995 album sold millions, but she never severed ties to her roots. Jewel often credits the discipline of homestead life, hauling water, chopping wood, singing for supper, as the foundation of her artistry. Despite fame, she remains connected to Homer, Alaska, where she occasionally performs intimate concerts and supports local causes. Her memoir and music alike echo the themes her family embodies: endurance, self-reflection, and the beauty of a life close to nature. The Kilcher's influence reaches beyond their homestead. Over decades, they've championed environmental stewardship and community support. They host local music events, contribute to conservation projects around Kachamak Bay, and share sustainable practices with visitors eager to learn how to live more lightly on the land. This commitment underscores a simple truth. The homestead isn't just a private refuge. It's a living classroom demonstrating harmony between human needs and the fragile Arctic ecosystem. As new Kilcher children grow up, the question naturally arises, will the next generation stay? Some may travel or choose different careers, but the skills, self-reliance, creativity, reverence for nature, are already part of their character. Whether they remain on the land or take those values elsewhere, the legacy endures. The Kilcher story proves that frontier living is more than chopping wood or braving snowstorms. It's about carrying an attitude of resilience into every endeavor. From music to politics to art, visitors who make the trek to Homer, Alaska, often describe the Kilcher homestead as a living museum of frontier ingenuity. Weathered barns lean gently toward the bay, while gardens burst with heirloom vegetables first planted by Ruth more than 70 years ago. Handmade signs guide guests along winding trails to rustic cabins, each one telling its own chapter of the family saga. The property is officially listed on the National Register of Historic Places, yet it's no frozen relic. Children still chase chickens across the yard, and the aroma of wood smoke mingles with the tang of salt air. Tours led by family members reveal the original root cellar, vintage tools, and the narrow footpaths that once served as the family's only roads. For visitors, it's a chance to step into a living time capsule. For the Kilchers, it's a way to honor their parents' vision while sharing a philosophy of stewardship and simplicity. Music doesn't merely entertain the Kilchers, it binds them. Evenings on the homestead often end with guitars, fiddles, and voices rising into the Alaskan night. Atz's folk ballads, Otto's playful harmonies, Jules' soaring vocals, and the next generation's eager contributions weave an intergenerational soundtrack of resilience. Local neighbors recall spontaneous barn concerts where snowflakes drift past the windows and every lyric feels earned. These gatherings blur the line between past and present. Songs learned from Ruth echo alongside modern originals. Through melody, the family tells stories of hardship and triumph, keeping oral history alive in a way that resonates far beyond the bay. Climate change has added new complexity to homestead life. Winters are less predictable, bringing sudden thaws that can damage food stores or flood outbuildings. Summers sometimes arrive with smoke from distant wildfires, challenging gardeners and hunters alike. Rather than retreat, the Kilchers adapt. They experiment with greenhouse techniques, diversify crops, and adjust hunting schedules to shifting animal patterns. Their flexibility proves that living close to the land requires constant learning. What remains unchanged is their commitment to tread lightly and plan carefully, skills that modern urban dwellers increasingly seek to emulate. While Alaska, the last frontier, introduced them to millions, the Kilchers' reach now extends well beyond reruns. They host workshops on sustainable living, contribute to environmental education programs, and collaborate with conservation groups across Alaska. Community leaders credit the family with inspiring younger residents to preserve cultural traditions and ecological balance. In a world where reality shows often chase fleeting drama, the Kilchers' ongoing work offers something rarer: proof that authenticity can inspire real-world action. Perhaps the most lasting lesson the Kilchers offer is philosophical. Their story invites everyone, even those in busy cities, to consider what frontier means today. It might be a personal challenge, a creative project, or simply the decision to grow a small garden in a patch of urban soil. By demonstrating that self-reliance and community care can coexist, the family encourages a re-examination of comfort and necessity. Their example whispers a gentle dare: simplify, reconnect, and discover the satisfaction of work done by hand. As twilight settles over Kachamak Bay, The Kilcher homestead glows softly against the expanse of tundra and sea. Generations have laughed, struggled, and sung here, proving that the truest wealth is not in possessions, but in stories carried forward. The show may pause and seasons may shift, yet the Kilcher spirit endures, rooted in music, resilience, and the endless horizon of Alaska itself. Their journey reminds us that while geography defines a frontier, courage and creativity define the people who live it. Deep within the main homestead house, a cedar-lined room holds decades of photographs, journals, and film reels. These archives, carefully cataloged by younger family members, capture everything from Ruth's handwritten recipes to Yule's early Constitution drafting notes. Scholars and local historians occasionally visit to study these materials, finding in them a rare record of mid-century Alaskan pioneer life. By preserving these personal artifacts, the Kilchers ensure that future generations will understand not only how they lived, but why they chose this rugged path. Ruth's legacy as a teacher continues to shape the family's approach to education. Many Kilcher children and grandchildren still learn at home, blending classic academics with practical skills such as animal husbandry, carpentry, and wild plant identification. Lessons often take place outdoors. Algebra might be taught while measuring a new greenhouse frame. Literature read aloud beside a wood stove after a long day of berry picking. This method fosters independence and curiosity, proving that learning can thrive beyond conventional classrooms. On winter nights, when storms blanket the bay, the family gathers in a circle near the hearth. One person begins a story, perhaps a humorous misadventure with a stubborn goat, and others add their own twists. These storytelling circles are more than entertainment. They're the heartbeat of Kilcher oral tradition. Each tale reinforces family history and keeps alive the voices of those who have passed, reminding everyone that memory itself is a form of homestead. Food remains a powerful thread linking generations. From smoked salmon to wild nettle soup, each meal tells a story of season and survival. Eve's gardens produce vibrant carrots and kale despite short summers, while Otto experiments with Old Swiss, recipes passed down from Ruth. Visitors often leave the homestead with jars of homemade jams or sourdough starter, edible mementos of a life rooted in the land. The Kilchers maintain respectful relationships with neighboring Alaska Native communities, exchanging knowledge about sustainable fishing, traditional medicines, and land stewardship. These partnerships highlight a mutual understanding. Survival in Alaska has always depended on cooperation and shared wisdom. Such connections enrich the Kilcher experience and underscore the importance of honoring those who first thrived on this land. As the youngest Kilchers grow into adulthood, conversations turn toward the homestead's next half-century. Will solar panels power the cabins? Will future children blend digital skills with the family's analog lifestyle? Whatever changes come, the core values, resilience, respect for nature, and devotion to family are expected to endure. In imagining the next 50 years, the Kilchers continue to view the homestead not as a museum piece, but as a living, evolving organism. Stand on the bluff at dusk and the horizon seems endless, the bay shimmering beneath a lavender sky. That view explains why the Kilchers stayed and why their story still resonates. The frontier isn't merely a location, it's a mindset of courage and curiosity. Whether you are homesteading in Alaska or navigating a bustling city, their example offers a quiet invitation. Live deliberately, cherish community, and meet each challenge as if it were your own last frontier.